Here's a coin. Now, if I flip this coin 17 times, what are the chances that I get 17 heads in a row? They're not very good. But what's the Valorant equivalent of flipping a coin 17 times and having 17 heads in a row? Well, for that we need to come to the second round of the game. You see, the second round in any Valorant game is often the most boring round in the entire game. That's because one team has all of the guns, and they have all of the money, and they have all of the shields, and they have all of the utility, and the other team doesn't have guns, and doesn't have shields, and doesn't have utility very often. And therefore, that makes this second round after a pistol round often the most boring round, because the team with all the money and all the guns, they're gonna win the round, and they're often going to win it without maybe even losing any players whatsoever. In fact, it's considered a good job by the team with no money if they can just get a couple kills. But winning one second round in Valorant isn't equivalent to flipping 17 heads in a row. That would be absurd. No, your chances of winning a second round in Valorant after losing the pistol, assuming that you don't force up, it's about 9.5% chance that you have of winning that second round. So losing one second round in a pro game is something that you've probably seen a team do. But what about losing 2 in a row of those kind of rounds? That's something that you may have only seen a couple times happen across all of the pro Valorant that you've watched. But what about 3 in a row? 3 in a row is something that you probably can't recall any team having that to happen to them ever. And what about 4 in a row? 4 in a row is something that probably just has never happened before. But what about 5 in a row? 5 in a row is surely so inconceivable that in Valorant's short history, surely that hasn't happened. And no, I don't think it had happened until now. Because welcome to Go Next Esports. Because they were competing in the EMEA Ascension tournament. It started well for them, but then they played against CGN. And in this game versus CGN, they won both pistols on bind, but they lost both second rounds. They then came to Abyss, and they won the first pistol, and they lost the second round. So let's take a look at their next game, which happened against Desire the very next day. And in the first map, well, they actually didn't win any pistols, and they lost 13-1. But in the second map, they won both pistols, and again, they lost both second rounds. That means that Go Next Esports somehow managed to lose 5 second rounds in a row. And this is about equivalent to flipping heads 17 times with a fair coin. And now, of course, I'm going to show you all of these rounds. And the thing is, there is actually things to learn from this as well. You can understand how you should and should not be playing second rounds from both teams' perspective. Let's start with the very first one that happened here on Bind, round number 2 here against CGN. And so the stage is set. We've got Go Next, who have their full buy. You've got CGN, who only have a Marshal, and keep your eye on this Marshal. It's going to be important for quite a few of these rounds, actually. But let's dive into the round then and see what happened. And you would think, how do most teams lose these second rounds? Well, they often lose the first kill. Well, not in this round, because as you just saw, they actually get the first kill here, Go Next, so you'd think that they'd be absolutely fine. But this Marshal, this is the thing. Maybe there is some things to learn. Maybe teams on the second round buy a Marshal, because you know what might happen? Well, I'll tell you what might happen in just a bit. If we play this a bit faster, is because Vince in just a second is just going to walk up on his own, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to hit this shot. Boom, right there. And now we're in a 4v4. The thing is, you're still in a 4v4, right? They still should be favored to win the round at this point. But again, now all it takes is one player making a big mistake, and all of a sudden you're in a lot of trouble.
And about always lurking. Now down to a 4v4.
Fully smoked.
Yeah, opportunities, time ticking. It seems like actually Alexi's going to get caught in no man's land. An open position that allows for a gun to go into the opponent's hands. A huge opportunity.
So we saw the Marshal do damage there as well. But now let's maybe talk about the gun choice for Go Next. Because the problem is we're in a 3v4 now, but look at their guns. They're now retaking with an Outlaw, a Judge, and a Marshal. So maybe this is a lesson as well for when you win this second round, is be careful with what guns you choose, because you do not want to be retaking with this.
Attacking side, they have fallen back passive and already put another on the death toll.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, it's a bit of chaos leaving Bold to do it all, and he might just have it. One more player to
Molly.
find. Oh, the Molly's got it across the line for Vince.
So that was number 1. Now let's move to number 2, round number 14 here of Bind. And in this one, let's take a look at that buy again. So obviously on the attack side here, bit more aggressive. We got 2 rifles, Bulldog, Spectre, with the 1 ghost save this time. But already we're making a big mistake. Okay, and what's our big mistake this time? Well, the big mistake is that our Viper has a rifle but is on their own. Right? This in 2024 is unacceptable. Okay, especially when you have the buy that they have, right? If one guy is gonna have a ghost, give it to the guy who's on his own, right? Not the guy with the rifle. Okay, because obviously when you're out here on your own, he's not ever gonna be able to try and aggressively take space, right? So for instance, if they've stacked B, he's just gonna be here. He's never going to be walking up with just a rifle on his own. The thing is, what actually does end up happening is they do start with a default towards B. They don't like it, you know, for whatever reason. They decide we don't like this. And our Viper here is pushed up, right? So these guys hear some noise out towards B. The rotates come across. But this guy just decides, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to walk up. He's got a Sheriff. We're going to come back. But again, we've got our Viper here who can't do anything because they got a rifle. So they can't, you know, afford to do anything. Instead, what we could have done is, hey, let's give this guy the ghost, give our Gecko the rifle, because the Gecko's going to be with the team and have the spike, and so that's important. Give this Viper the ghost so that they can go off lurking, whatever, but I guess not, because guess what? We're playing for our own stats, and that's going to cost us this entire game.
Their sake, although I'm assuming he'll probably be back on Sentinel when they head over to Abyss. And wow, here you go already. Anguist with the start.
Now from here, it must be said that Anguist is going to absolutely pop off in this round, and of course, this can happen every so often, right?
Even still, it becomes a much tougher task coming into a retake with pistols than it was finding that opener, but maybe not for Anguist. Already a second on the board, probably looking at his teammates, wondering when they're going to make their face known, make their push, and well, he might just do it all. Davi's going to steal away the ace, but now it's left onto Profek, trying to spam, but I think realizing that the Vandal holds much more value.
But again, let's learn from CGN's side of how do you win these second rounds, and the truth is, you're often going to win through a Sheriff or a Marshal, as we've seen already from CGN, right? And I think a lot of people got scared when the Outlaw came out that, oh, you can't do this buy anymore. You know, you can't buy Sheriffs on these second rounds anymore because the Outlaw exists. Truth is, most people don't buy an Outlaw, so it's not a big problem. And the other thing I will say is, in both of these rounds that we've seen as well, the Brim Molly and Utility right here, right? This basically gets another kill on Alexic, right? Just that Brim Molly alone. The buying utility is still important because you never know. You never know in that second round when you'll be in a good situation. And the difference with utility than buying, say, a gun is that if you're not having a good round, if you lose the first couple kills, just don't use it, right? And then you still have it for the next round and you haven't lost any money and you're not going to have to buy light shields or whatever if you are worried about an Outlaw. So utility, second round, still buy it. So let's look at our third example here. We're now on Abyss, and would you take a look what gun is in the hand of Element here? Oh, look, it's our friend the Marshal.
I believe so. They were just a little over eager, I suppose. Although I guess it is the fact that they had lost so much control. Like the fact that the defenders had pushed all the way into spawn. That's where you just start to get a little antsy and you want to make a move. Now, a bold off rip, mid peak, spots out. There's a player there, loses his head for the trouble.
So you see the power of the Marshal again there right at the start of the round. And the thing is, of course, if you have a Marshal or a Sheriff or something like that, the truth is you can then just pick up the gun if that player dies and still start to create some chaos.
That this girl goes bye-bye.
Well, for now at least. Some awkward fights, Daddy. Okay, to get away with here. It's not the prettiest of fights. In fact, it's messy. Forcing him back off the angle. Pop flash, a paranoia. It's going to force him all the way back. And look at where the rest of the defenders are. They are so far away, completely overwhelmed. Is this going to be the third time this series that Go Next have won the pistol and lost round 2?
It very well could be. CGN are able to do so much in these rounds, and it looks like they're about to do so much more. Vince, damage done, and it's an easy follow-up. Anguist able to drop Mini and leave Zeke all by his lonesome. 3 players still need to be dropped by this man. And although he has a one-shot weapon, just one hit needed, with this Outlaw, he is going to find it hard to drop all 3. Only 2 chambers. And
hopefully you learned some lessons from that first game there, like still buying your utility, and maybe the odd Marshal and Sheriff is a pretty good idea. Now let's turn to the second game though, Icebox against Desire. So you can see, Go Next, we're 1-0 up already. This time we have a buy that, you know, is again you know, a bit more aggressive, let's say, on this defensive side. But again, they actually find the first kill here with the Outlaw. Again, though, our opponents, this time a different opponent, has also bought a Marshal, as you can see, and they've actually just flipped that over. So the first guy died here with his Marshal. This has now been picked up by the Viper, so again, we're looking at that. And you could argue here that, you know, they're being pretty passive here, our Go Next, right? They're kind of sitting back, letting the spike be planted here on B. They're behind the wall, whatever. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Their main mistake, I think, that comes in just now is that they're letting the spike go down, right? So our whole plan this round on B has been, hey, we're sitting back super passive here, you know, we're not really contesting too much, we're just happy to, you know, let you get the spike down if that's what you want. But now, for whatever reason, like, we've started to already push up, and we're gonna start peeking out. Well, if you guys were just playing back here all super passive the whole time, then why now have you decided, well, F that, now that our teammates are on the way, well, now I'm gonna try and be aggressive? It just makes no sense, and it's gonna cost them this round.
Through. Build, trying to get some tags for Profit. That was the Outlaw that he had in his pocket, and while going up will probably be allowed for that to get picked up. But it's not as cut and dry as you would think so far. Still taking their time. Go Next like to look at all the minor details, pay attention, and dot the I's, cross the T's, and look at this. It looks like they're not going to get a chance to. There's no way that they're going to get ecoed like this. Oh my god!
And this final one, they just decide, F it, we're just gonna run to B. And again, normally you would say this is not a great idea. You actually see that they went for everyone buy as much as you can. We are not losing this round. There is no way we are losing this second round, right? We are sick of losing these rounds with everyone full buying. We don't care, right? And we're just going to run B. Problem is, of course, they ran into a stack.
But for the most part, I would say this game has been him.
Big stack towards the B side. Playing off Wacky's contact information towards B. It's going to be a scrappy affair. Not again. Yes.
Okay, so I just paused it there. And initially you probably thought, oh no, they're in a lot of trouble. And you know that they lose this round. But still, they actually dealt with it. Okay, we got most of these kills, right? Now it's just the Sage here. We're in a 3v1 here against just the Sage. And the Killjoy's still miles away with just a classic, right? But somehow they are going to lose this round. And sometimes your opponent just pops off.
Gets them into the spot that they were looking for. Caden trying to stick around. Only a classy. No, not like this. Mini, he's having to be the hero once again. He gets the spike back in his pocket, but if he leaves B, then he has to try. Oh no! Oh no!
So congratulations, Go Next, for your achievement there of doing something so unlikely. For the rest of the day, I will now be flipping this coin to see if I can get 17 heads in a row. Wish me luck. Tails.